Breaking news! Bad news has just arrived involving the Denver Broncos, but since everything always has two sides, I'm also going to bring you some good news. We know that the Denver Broncos surprised a lot of people last season. No one believed we would make it to the playoffs, but we did. This made a lot of people angry, and even jealous, but Sean Payton wants to go further. He doesn't just want to make it to the playoffs this time, he wants to go to the Super Bowl, and man, seriously, I really believe in the team's potential to get there. We have Bo Nix, a powerful quarterback. Despite his age, he has helped us a lot. If you agree with me, press the like button hard, and write like this if possible. Go Knicks! Take us to the Super Bowl. Well, I want to start by talking about the bad news, then I'll tell you the good. The Denver Broncos offseason plans just took a hit, and if you've been waiting for a dream signing to fix the defense, you're going to want to hear this. But before you start panicking, there's a silver lining, actually, multiple silver linings, that could turn this setback into one of the best things that could ever happen to the team. So stick around, because what just happened could completely change how the Broncos approach free agency. Let's get right to it. The Broncos had a key offseason target, someone many believed would be a perfect fit on Denver's defense. The goal? Improve the inside linebacker position. With Alex Singleton returning from injury and Drew Sanders still somewhat of an unknown, that was the area that needed to be addressed. And the player who seemed like the perfect fit, Zach Bond. Bond had all the Sean Payton connections. He was originally drafted by Payton in New Orleans, had a breakout season, and was even a contender for Defensive Player of the Year at one point. The fit seemed perfect. The buzz began immediately after the Broncos were eliminated from playoff contention. It wasn't just fans connecting the dots, analysts, insiders, and even people around the league saw Bond to Denver as a real possibility. Then, the bad news hit. The Philadelphia Eagles swooped in and gave him a monster contract. 3 years, $51 million. That's $17 million per year. And just like that, the Broncos' dream target was off the board. Now, at first glance, this feels like a gut punch. But before you get too upset, let's break down why missing out on Bond might actually be a blessing in disguise. For one, there's the question of whether he was really worth that much money. Sure, he had an incredible season, but how much of that was because he was playing behind one of the best defensive lines in football? The Eagles' defensive front was dominant. They made life miserable for quarterbacks, forcing bad decisions, making game-changing plays. When you have that kind of talent in front of you, it makes life a lot easier for a linebacker. So would Bond have been just as dominant in Denver? That's the $51 million question. The Broncos' defensive line isn't bad, but it's not the Eagles' line. If Bond was a product of that system, then dropping $17 million a year on him could have ended up being a huge overpay. And here's where things get really interesting, because missing out on Bond might actually allow the Broncos to make an even bigger move. San Francisco 49ers insider Adam Schefter recently reported that the team is in a massive financial crunch. The 49ers have an aging roster, cap space problems, and a ton of difficult decisions to make. And according to Schefter, one of those decisions is parting ways with Dre Greenlaw. Now, if you've been paying attention, this is where things start to get really exciting, because Greenlaw isn't just a solid linebacker. When healthy, he's been one of the best in the league. His PFF grades are nearly identical to Bond's, but historically, he's been even better. The only thing that's held him back? Injuries. Greenlaw tore his Achilles in the Super Bowl, and that's obviously a huge concern. But before that, he was the heart and soul of the 49ers defense. This is a guy who sets the tone, plays with intensity, and makes game-changing plays. If the Broncos could land Greenlaw, they might actually be getting a better player than Bond at a much better price. And here's another name to keep an eye on, Talanoa Hufanga. The 49ers All-Pro safety is also rumored to be on the way out. This is a player who has completely changed games with his aggressive, playmaking style. Adding a safety like Hufanga would give the Broncos defense a whole new identity. But the real wild card? Nick Bolton. There's been some speculation that Bolton could be on the move, but here's the catch. The Chiefs might be forced to keep him. Why? Because Kansas City is already getting their roster in what feels like the beginning of a major rebuild. That's right, rebuild. The Chiefs just made a shocking move, trading away Pro Bowl guard Joe Thuney for nothing more than a 4th-round pick. That's a massive loss for Kansas City. Thuney was one of the best guards in the NFL, and they just let him go for a mid-round draft pick. If you're a Broncos fan, this is exactly what you want to see. Because think about it, Patrick Mahomes was already under constant pressure in the Super Bowl. The Eagles' defensive front made life miserable for him, and that was with Thuney on the field. Now, he's gone, and the Chiefs don't have the cap space to replace him with a top-tier player. That means when the Broncos line up against the Chiefs next season, Zach Allen is going to be licking his chops. Kansas City's offensive line is crumbling, and that's going to make things a whole lot easier for Denver's pass rush. But that's not the only big move that could be coming. According to NFL insider Mike Kay, the Broncos are expected to make a splash in free agency and not just on defense. Kay believes that Denver is going to go after a top-tier wide receiver, not another mid-tier signing like Josh Reynolds last year. A real, legitimate number one receiver. And the names being floated around? They're huge. One of the biggest? DK Metcalf. Reports surfaced today that Metcalf has officially requested a trade out of Seattle. If you're a Broncos fan, you have to love this. After the Russell Wilson trade debacle, the Seahawks are falling apart. Now, their biggest offensive weapon wants out, and the Broncos might just be in a position to capitalize. Another name to watch? Garrett Wilson. Vegas oddsmakers have listed the Broncos as the favorites to land Wilson if he's traded. That's significant. Wilson has already shown elite talent, despite playing with below-average quarterbacks. Pairing him with Denver's offense? That could be a game changer. And then there's Chris Godwin. A recent poll of Broncos fans showed that Godwin is the player they're most excited about. He's been a consistent, high-level receiver, and adding him would give Denver's offense a serious boost. But here's the reality. Everyone is going to be competing for these guys. The Raiders, Chargers, Chiefs, and Texans all need a number one receiver. It's going to be a battle, and that means Sean Payton, Greg Penner, and the Broncos front office need to go all in. Because this isn't just about making the playoffs. This is about building a team that can compete with the Chiefs. This is about making sure Denver isn't just sneaking into the postseason, but actually making a deep run. And the pieces are there. Bo Nix takes another step forward. The defense adds a game-changing linebacker or safety. The Broncos land a true number one receiver. That's the formula. So now, Broncos country, it's your turn. What do you think? Would you have wanted the team to pay $17 million per year for Zach Bond? Or is Dre Greenlaw the better option? And if the Broncos go after a big-time receiver, who do you want most? Metcalf, Wilson, or Godwin? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, because this offseason is just getting started. And here's where things get even more interesting, because while the Broncos are positioning themselves to make a splash, they're not the only ones with big moves on the horizon. The AFC is shifting. Teams are making desperate decisions. And if Denver plays its cards right, this could be the moment that finally puts them back in serious playoff contention. Let's talk about the quarterback situation for a second, because as much as this offseason is about finding a linebacker and landing a top receiver, none of that matters if the quarterback play isn't good enough. Bo Nix is the name that keeps coming up, and here's why that matters. A lot of people are looking at the Broncos and saying, this team isn't ready to compete yet. But think about it. If Nix takes a leap forward, if Sean Payton's offense clicks in year 2, if they get even slightly above average quarterback play, this team could be dangerous. Why? Because the defense is already solid. They showed flashes last year of being dominant. Add a guy like Greenlaw or Hufanga, and you might be looking at a top 10 unit. But what do you think? Broncos country, is this the offseason where everything finally clicks? Or do you think Denver still has a long way to go? And if you had to pick, would you rather have Dre Greenlaw or DK Metcalf? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Because one thing's for sure, this offseason is going to be wild. And the Broncos are right in the middle of it.